Welcome to LovegLew Creations, where we create and design for your inspiration. Welcome to our Friday tutorial. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's wreath. Okay, so today we're going to design a wreath using a wreath attachment kit. So here's one that I created for Halloween, and the kit came with the little legs and the hat for this little witch. And I bought the rest of the embellishments to add to the wreath kit, and I wanted to make sure I coordinated all of the colors and so forth. This wreath is mounted on a 24-inch base, 24-inch pine base wreath. And the great thing about this one is the base pine was black, so it went perfectly well with the design that I was working on in creating this wreath. So we're going to do the same thing, however, we're going to use a different attachment, and this time we're going to make a Christmas wreath using this Nutcracker. And this is the wreath attachment kit that I got from a company called TMI Gifts. Both of these came from TMI Gifts. Okay, so first of all, I want to start with my wreath recipe. I'm going to show you all of the ingredients that are going to go into making this wreath. One thing to keep in mind, and I don't know if y'all remember or those of you have seen my prior tutorials, I talk about how to pick your color pattern. And most of the time it starts with the biggest part of your wreath, which is your center, your focal point. So I picked things specifically for my wreath that would match my wreath attachment kit. So of course we're going to start with our Nutcracker. We have our 24-inch base pine wreath. Then I have my embellishments. So I selected items that were the color of my Nutcracker. My sprays, look how cute this is. It has the ice cream cones. We have these cute little sprays that definitely match our Nutcracker. And then I have some other embellishments just to add a little bit of pop to the wreath itself, to give it that special Christmas look. More sprays. But here's what was exciting for me. How pretty are these? So we're going to be adding these to the wreath as well to help pop some of the blue that's in our Nutcracker. And I bought this as well, so we're going to add this into it as well. And then we are also going to use as a base inside our wreath itself to give it a palette, to give the embellishments something to stick to. We're going to add some mesh within the wreath form. And then I have this beautiful ribbon. And how cute is that? And this one has the Nutcracker in it. How cute is that? All right, and then we have colors that definitely match the Nutcracker. And I love this ribbon here. It has the real pretty border of the white, a fuzzy border around the ribbon itself with the snowflakes and this swirly, curly Q looking ribbon as well. So let's get ready to wreath. Okay, so first things first, we're going to start by cutting our mesh to get it prepared to be our base in our pine wreath form. And this mesh came from Hobby Lobby. So keep in mind, when we're doing wreaths like this and the mesh is going to be our palette, we don't really need to use the expensive mesh. We can use what's called budget mesh. So this is perfect to use for the base of our pine wreath form. All right, so we're going to cut 15 inches. And usually I can't give you a total amount of how many pieces you're going to need. So you cut about maybe 20 pieces, and then from there, if you need more, you can cut more. So always make sure you have more than enough mesh to make sure it can cover your entire wreath form. And it comes with experience. So, but we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to cut each one at about 15 inches. And I'm going to cut both pink and the white. But here's a quick tip for you all. You can cut them both at the same time. So if you know that you need the same size measurements of mesh, then you can cut them at the same time and save time. So lay them on top of each other and cut. And you're going to cut two pieces at one time. You got your white and your pink. So I'm going to continue doing this and get about, say, a good 20 pieces each. And we'll be right back. Okay, now that we have our mesh cut, I want to show you all. So one thing that I want to do with this particular wreath is I don't want it to be completely round. So what I want to do is squish it into an oval form, and that's exactly what I did on my Halloween witch wreath as well. So we're just going to squish it a little bit to give it that oval shape. So that way the Nutcracker can sit perfectly inside. So you see how it's ovaled? And one thing you want to do as well is kind of open up your branches, because these are going to be your ties, and you're going to use your branches to tie in your mesh. Okay, so let's get them open a little bit. So it's all about preparation, and this is pretty much the longest part, is opening everything and getting your mesh on. So I'm going to go ahead and apply some of the mesh so you can see how exactly I get it inside of this wreath. But you can see it's an oval shape now. If we turn it around, it's that oval shape, which is perfect, exactly how we want it. And I got this wreath form from Hobby Lobby. Okay, but I did get it at the time when Hobby Lobby was at the end of Christmas. So we all know, hitting those sales at the end of Christmas, I think I probably got these for like $2. All right, so I'm always trying to find a bargain, and it worked out for us. All right, so let's go ahead and add the mesh. So we're just going to take the mesh, and again, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. We're just going to roll the ends together, squish it like this, and we're going to tie it into the wreath form. Okay, so we'll find some of our ties, and just like when we're using a pencil wreath form, we're going to go ahead and use the branches as ties, and it starts adding the wreath, adding the form of the wreath that we need for our base. Again, take the pink, so I'm alternating, so it's pink and white, pink and white. So we're going to go ahead and go around the entire wreath until we get it full enough, so that way we have a base, so we can start adding our embellishments. Okay, and again, like I said, this is the budget mesh. This mesh came from Hobby Lobby, and I didn't need to buy anything fancy. Like, I have fancy mesh that I get from Craft Tex, and that mesh has stripes around the end, which is really pretty, and I use that a lot for my big wreaths when I'm adding mesh and ribbon and so forth. So, but this is not that kind of wreath, because we're pretty much going to hide a lot of this stuff. It is going to poke through, which is fine, because it's going to have to, show a little bit, but our embellishment should cover up a lot of it, especially adding the Nutcracker. All right, so I'm going to continue adding the mesh, and you will see the finished product. Okay, so now that we have added our mesh, and again, our mesh is our palette for us to add our embellishments, but one thing that I didn't do is I left a portion of the wreath form uncovered with mesh, because that's where I'm going to put his head, and I don't want the mesh to push the head forward. So we're going to use the wires that's on the back of this wreath attachment, and use that to add it into the wreath. So this came from TMI Gifts, and so but one thing I wanted to talk about is when I add my Nutcracker, I want him to have a center. Okay, so we're going to add his legs and his head, right? But we don't have a center. So one thing that is an issue is when I add the center, there's nothing here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a center, and I'm going to make that center with zip ties. Okay, so I have my zip ties. They're not long enough, so here's a trick that you do, and you take it and you add it. You add the zip tie and make it longer. All right, so we're going to thread it through the center of the wreath form and create another bracket, so to speak, to add a center, so we can add our poinsettia, and I'll show you what I'm doing in a minute, but I want to go ahead and get the zip ties added in the center, and I'm going to add mesh to the zip ties so they're covered up. And I have something to attach my embellishment to in the center as well. Did I do that right? I don't think I did. Let's turn it around. Okay, here we go. This way. Okay. Let's get it through there. And you want it to go around the wire of the wreath form and stick it through and make your center. All right, so then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add the some mesh on it to help cover it up. All right, now we're going to add the mesh, but we need to have some ties. So we're gonna create our own ties on the zip ties. So all you do is take it, wrap it around, and I'm gonna add 3. So we're sticking it right through and we're wrapping it around just to get that enough. And I'm gonna glue these on as well so that they don't move. So I want them to be perfectly where they need to be. So let's go ahead and glue them on. Go ahead and get that solidified in there. And again, this is to be a base for our center. And now we can add our mesh, and it'll dry on its own, but we're gonna go ahead and add our mesh in these ties. So we can build a center. We can build a base. That's what I'm doing, building the base. Again, we just roll it together, cinch it in the center, go ahead and tie it in there. So now we have a center base. Okay. Okay, so now that we've established a center point for our center of our Nutcracker, I'm gonna go ahead and add the legs. So the great thing about this wreath attachment from TMI Gifts is it came with wire on the back, which is pretty cool and very helpful. And also there's wire in his legs, so you can actually adjust his legs and do whatever you want to do with them. I may just cross them because I think that's really, really cute, like I did with the witch's legs, or we can just have them hanging down, either or. So let me go ahead and get rid of this tag here. All right, cool. All right, so let's go ahead and attach the legs, and I'm going to just thread this wire straight through my wreath form and use the branches as ties as well. So let's stick it through there and make sure that it's stretched out because you don't want him to be bunchy. You want him to be, you can see everything, all his little belt buckle and his little buttons on his little vest and so forth, his little belt here. All right, so let's get him in there. I got him going through the actual wire of the wreath form itself. I'm just gonna tie it around there. Find it. Okay. Twist it around. And now let's do the other side. Make sure he's stretched out enough so we can see his full outfit. And we're gonna do the same thing and thread the wire through. Make sure it's wrapped around the wire of the wreath form. And we'll continue to do that, and we'll be right back. Okay, so now we have the legs added, and I made sure that it was spaced out enough to where his clothes weren't too bunched up and stuck down into the wreath form. So I had to kind of maneuver it a little bit to make sure that it stands out and it's not sinking in. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna work our way from the bottom up, and I wanna add a center for him. So we're gonna use this really, really pretty poinsettia that matches him perfectly. And this came from TMI Gifts as well. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna add it to the center. And I'm probably gonna cut it in a few minutes, but I just wanna position it first before I do any cutting. And it's gonna go in the center, and it's almost gonna be like, the way I'm gonna position it when we add his head, it's almost gonna be like a bow tie form. See how cute that is? That's gonna be really cute. Okay, so it's gonna, and I'm not gonna fan it out like a poinsettia, you know, that has to have the points on each side. We're gonna make it a center point for him. We're gonna put 3 on each side. I'm gonna make it like a little bow tie in the center, and it's gonna be the mid of his body, so it kind of gives him a shape and a form. All right, so make sure everything is fanned out perfectly. And I can actually glue him this on. This is why we have the mesh, so we can glue our embellishments on. So I'm just gonna cut the stem, and then we're gonna glue on the poinsettia. I'm gonna leave a little bit just to have to tie into the actual ties, but we don't need this whole long stem. Okay, so let's go ahead and cut that. Let's go ahead and put it in there. Use our ties to tie it in, and I'm also going to glue it. But these ties, that's what they're there for. And what's great about using the pine base is that we can use these we can use the top of the pine needle ties as ties. So we're going to tie it in there really good. Get it on there, and I'm going to glue the petals down, but I'm not going to glue them yet until I make sure that I have the head exactly where I want it to be. Okay, so we're just going to fan this out a little bit so it has that bow tie look. All right, and then when we add the head, it's going to go on just like that. Okay, so I'm going to use the ties on the head to position him on a wreath form, and I'm also going to use some glue. But let's go ahead and get him tied in. Again, we're going to use the ties to the wire on the head to go through the wreath form, and then we'll wrap it around the actual wire of the wreath form, and then we'll use some glue to glue him on so he's nice and secure. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and thread him through, and we'll be right back. All right, I missed one point, and I wanted to make sure that you all were aware. Remember, we made our center and we added the zip tie in the back. Well, it's actually going to come in handy because I need to tie his head on with these wires, and I'm going to use that center zip tie to put the wires through and wrap it around that, as well as glue it on. So I just wanted to make that point that it came in handy. We don't have a gap, and he's going to be secure onto the wreath form. Okay, so what I'm doing is I am tying using the wires to tie around the center base that we made of the zip ties. So this is his head. We're making sure it's secure, tied on really good. I'm gonna wrap it around the zip tie, get it in there really, really good and secure. Because we don't want his head to fall, lean, or anything. It's not going anywhere. Okay, and when I get done, I'm gonna glue his head as well on. So I'll glue it at the top up here to make sure it's really stuck and secure. However, we do have wires up here, which I'm going to pull through. There's the wires to the top of his head, and I'm going to wrap it around the wire of the wreath form. Okay, now that we got his head secure, here we go. Let's see what we got here. All right, look how cute that is. He's got his little poinsettia bow tie, but what I do want to do is just glue the poinsettia, give it some glue spots so it's nice and secure on him as well. So let's go ahead and do that. And again, the perfect thing when we did our base with our mesh, and this is why. So we can use it to help secure our embellishments to the wreath. All right, so get this in. Pull it down. Don't want to touch it, it's hot. All right. Okay, give it a second to set. And we are good to go. We got his center of his body, and look how cute he is. All right, so the next thing I want to do is we want to apply the bow. So, or the ribbon rather. So we're gonna add, I think it would be really cute to have a bow here, and then I'm gonna cascade some of the ribbon down on each side of the wreath. And I'll show you how to do that. All right, so next we're going to make the bow, and we're going to make a nice wreath bow for this particular wreath. So we're going to start with our tail. I have about an 8-inch tail, and what we're going to do is we're going to do 2 loops on each side. Each loop is going to be 6 inches. And remember, because of this particular ribbon, it's not the same on each side, so when we put it in, we have to twist it on the bow maker and measure it at 6 and make sure that the pretty side shows front for the loop. Okay, and then we're going to twist it again. And we're going to do 6 inches. It works better if I take it off. It gets twisty. All right, so that's 1 loop on each side. We're going to twist it again. And make another 6-inch loop. Bring it over. Twist it again. And make another 6-inch loop. And then we're going to bring this tail down. And that tail is going to be 6 inches, or 8 inches as well. So measure at 8, cut it. All right, so this is a 2.5-inch ribbon. And then we're going to use the Nutcracker ribbon. So we're going to use all 3 of these ribbons, and this ribbon came from Craftex. I always mention Craftex. It's one of the major crafting stores here in Houston, Texas, and it's awesome. There's everything in it. One day maybe I'll do a YouTube video and walk you guys through Craftex, and you'll see why I love it. All right, and you can also order online from Craftex. So you can Google them, craftex.com, and you'll be able to see all kinds of wonderful things that they have. You can buy wholesale as well from Craftex. They do design sessions. You can actually join those design sessions. They have some beautiful designers, some really talented designers there. They make custom everything. So if you ever get a chance to go online, please do. All right, so this one, I'm just gonna do 1 loop on each side because the bow's getting kind of big, right? So, which is fine, but I'm gonna do just 1 loop on each side, and I'm gonna also add the 1.5-inch ribbon as well. So let's go ahead and cut that tail at 8 inches. All right, let's go ahead and add this beautiful blue ribbon with the white snowflakes, and I love this fluffy trim on it. So that's gonna add a little something special. So we're gonna make this loop a little smaller. So we'll do this one at about 4 inches. And we're just gonna do 1 loop on each side as well. The tail is about the same, it's about 8 inches, but because we're also gonna be embellishing this ribbon throughout the wreath, and I'll show you how we're gonna do that also. So there, you'll be able to see the ribbon throughout. So just because it's on one side and of the wreath. We're gonna have it all throughout the wreath, so. All right. Let's get our zip tie. Guys, I thought I had everything here. Here we go. All right. You know me and my colorful zip ties, but we're gonna stick with the zip tie color that is uniform to our wreath. And we're gonna carefully pull up our wreath, pinch it in the center so we don't lose the form. Wrap it around. And push it, pull it through. Okay, why are you giving me problems today? Okay, there we go. All right, there we go. Pull it through the center. Go ahead and fluff it out. So what I want to do also is I want to make sure that we cover up the center. So I'm going to take the blue and tie it around and give it a little center pop, a little center knot, so we don't see the zip tie. So let me cut the back off of this. All right, so one thing that I am going to do is, because we need to add it to the wreath form, is we're going to add a pipe cleaner, because that's going to help us tie the bow into the wreath form. So let's put this on the bottom underneath. So take it like this, wrap it around, and once you tie it tight, it's going to cinch it in the center, and you can see how cute that's going to be. So we'll make our first knot, and then put our zip tie in there. Our pipe cleaner. All right, and we're just going to tie it through one more time. Make sure it's good on knotted on there. All right, we're gonna cut these ends so they don't stick out. Take our pipe cleaner. So we want to make, just tie it around enough to where we still have a little bit of our pipe cleaner sticking out, because this is the part that's going to go inside the wreath. Make sure it's on there really good. Wrap it around. All right, so now let's fluff out the bow. Let's get all the loops showing, fluffed. It's going to be really pretty. It looks really nice. And we're going to go ahead and dovetail our tails. And we're going to attach it to the wreath. So let me finish dovetailing and we'll be right back. Okay, so now we're going to attach our bow to our wreath form, and I thought I would put it on the corner of his body here, just like that. So I'm going to take my pipe cleaner, stick it through my wreath form, pull it through, and tie it around the metal rim, of the wreath. Where are you at, buddy? Okay, there we go. So we get it in there nice and good and solid. And see how pretty that is? Just kind of hanging on the side like that. So let me get it on there, and we'll be right back. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to add ribbon all the way around the wreath itself. And so what I'm going to do is, because there's so much going on with the wreath and we're going to add more embellishments and so forth, we can't really thread the ribbon through the wreath. It just doesn't work that way. So we're gonna give it the illusion that it's threaded through. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut the ribbon in 14 inches each, and I'm gonna cut several pieces, and I'll show you what I mean in a few minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut the ribbon in 14 inches, and I'm gonna cut several pieces of each ribbon. And I obviously need to get better scissors. That will be happening soon. All right, so, and you'll be able to see exactly what I'm doing in a few minutes. And you'll see how we can make the wreath look even prettier when we add ribbon throughout the perimeter of it. So let me finish cutting and we'll be right back. Okay, so what I did was I cut all my pieces of ribbon in 14 inches, dovetailed them. So I'm going to add these around the perimeter of the wreath itself. So I'm going to alternate this squirrely ribbon and the Nutcracker ribbon throughout, and I'm going to add the blue snowflake ribbon on top. So all we do is add it on top, find our center, fold it in the center, find it, squinch it, and then we're going to add it this way, add it into the wreath using the ties within the pine wreath form, but we're going to also bend them out so they stick out like that. All right, so let's start at the top. And again, this kind of gives the illusion that there's ribbon going all the way around through the wreath form, but we're using pieces of ribbon, and we just bow them out like this, bend them out, and see how that looks. It's starting to come to form. So now we're going to alternate. We're going to use the Nutcracker ribbon with the blue and find another spot where we can tie it in. And the great thing, like I said, about these pine wreaths is we can use the pine needles themselves and just get them in there, and they help us put our embellishments in as perfect as possible. All right, so we're going to do that throughout the rest of the wreath form. Now, keep in mind, if you don't have enough, I cut to what I thought I need, and then what I think I need, and if I need more, I'll cut more if I want to have more going around the wreath form itself. Okay, so let me go ahead and get those throughout, and then we'll start working on our embellishments. Okay, so now we have the ribbon placed within the wreath form itself, so it goes all the way around. You can see how it flows around the wreath itself. And feel free at any time, if you feel like you want to add more ribbon, you can. This is your creation when you're making these, and all wreath makers make adjustments and change their minds and all kinds of stuff. So now I want to go ahead and start adding my embellishments. And so I'm gonna add this cute little cupcake. It's not cute. So this came from TMI Gifts as well. So I'm just gonna, where there's holes, we're gonna use that to fill in the holes. And there's a hole here at the top of his head. So we're gonna put one here. So I'm gonna glue those on. Put enough glue on there to where it's gonna stick onto the wreath form. Make sure you're generous with it and plop it right next to his head. Okay, so while that's doing that, we're going to do the cupcake. So cute. But see, it has a seam. See that seam? So we'll make sure that that part is inside. So keep that in mind too when you're applying your embellishments. Areas where you don't want them to show, that's the part that you hide. Okay, so we're gonna put enough glue, be generous with it as well. Put that sucker right there. So just kind of hold them there, give them a moment to seal themselves in there. All right, okay. So now we're going to start adding our sprays, and I want to talk with you about the sprays really quick. So this particular spray has 1, 2, 3 branches. So with these two, I get 6 branches from each spray, and these came from TMI Gifts as well. So we're just gonna cut them so we can add them to the wreath. So and make sure you have some good wire cutters when you're cutting these things. Sometimes, oops, they can be tricky. All right, the other ones, what I want to do is show you these. So I have these ice cream cones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add both of these to the end of, to the bottom of our wreath, so they're sticking out like that at the bottom. So I'm going to cut it and then stuff it through, and it'll be hanging out through the, well, I'll actually put it through the center, through his legs. All right, and then maybe we'll add one to the top. All right, so let me go ahead and cut those, and let's see how it's gonna look. Again, it's all about placement and figuring out where you want it to be before you actually put it in there. So we'll go underneath so it can kind of hang down. Okay, maybe we'll do it side to side like that. So we'll do one on each side. Okay, so let me cut the other one. We're just going to add glue to the bottom of the stem and stick them right through the wreath form. And you find a hole and you get it up in there just like that, and they'll hang down. How cute would that be? That's gonna be cute. All right, so, and to make it even, just put one on each side and we'll glue them in. Okay, so once you get them where you want them and you feel like that's good, so go ahead and spread these stems out too. They can kind of give it a full look, but we're still going to add more. So this is just to give it that full look. So let me go ahead and get these glued in, and we'll start with the other ones. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add these sprays, and we're just going to add them sporadically throughout the outside of our Nutcracker. So let's go ahead and start adding. And this adds more texture and adds a little bit more depth to our wreath form. So we just glue it and place them around our Nutcracker. Make sure that it's glued really well. Get enough glue on there so when you stick it through, it's going to stick inside and stay. All right, and these are light enough to where they'll stay really good. They'll absorb the glue as well and absorb with inside the wreath form itself. All right, so we're just finding holes where we want them to go. Get it in there. So we want to make sure it's even on each side. So I just need one more. I'm going to put it right under the bow and position it so that it's given that fan look. So it draws attention to the eye, and it really stands out. Okay. All right. So far so good. I think that's all we need for that. So my next sprays that I want to add are these beautiful shiny sprays here, and we're going to add them on the perimeter of our wreath. So they each have enough to where I could cut those and just kind of flourish around, but I'm just going to go, I have 5 of them. I'm probably going to use 4, 2 at the top and 2 on each side. Okay, so we'll 2 at the top and 2 sides, and I think that'll do it. And if not, we have one more to work with. So let me go ahead and cut those. And so you can see what I'm doing. Let me bring him down a little bit so you can see him in the camera. So I'm gonna just put him on the outside like this. I'm gonna cut it down a little bit more, so we'll have 2 at the top and 2 on the side. Okay, so let me cut it down just a little bit more. And just let me position it first before I glue it in. It would look just like that. That's gonna look really, really pretty. Stick it in there, spread it out a little bit, and do another one. And once I get them where I want them, and I'm comfortable with where they are, then I will glue them in. Spread them out. So far so good. It's looking pretty good. Okay, can y'all see that? Let me see. So you can see that. All right. So gonna do the same on this side. So I want them coming out of the sides. Get them in there where I want it. To give it that festive look. And that's gonna be really pretty. I think this blue sparkly pick really adds a special touch and makes it really stand out as well. So once I get it where I want it, I'm comfortable, I'm gonna go ahead and glue them in. So that's gonna be really, really pretty. All right, and so one other thing I wanted to add, I don't think I need to, but I was gonna add some these within, but I think we got enough embellishments within this guy. All right, so let me get these glued on. And these blue shiny sprays came from Craftex as well. So let me glue these in and we'll come back and we'll see our finished product. Okay everyone, here is our finished product. What do you think? Turned out pretty good. All right, so don't forget to like and subscribe and tune in next Friday for the next tutorial. And thanks for wreathing with me.